Alright guys, let's go back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Sib continues his talk about the OpTic Texas team for the rest of the season after gassing up Shotzzy big time the other day. He continues on that trend, but also says that based on the World Championship Grand Final they played against one another in 2024, if he had the crowd behind him, there is no way he would be losing, let alone even dying at a particular map. He reckons that in Paris this year, if they play OpTic, it's going to be a very different story, but also implies that if he got the opportunity to play for OpTic at some point, that would certainly not be an opportunity he would be turning down. Very much enjoying your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Wanted to start here with Dashy. Did this the other day for HyDra. The boys put this together. We've done the same thing here for Dashy's overall stats as in terms of Lion Man cards. So I think it was HyDra's one that was pretty outrageous. He was never below an 80. There have been the occasional stage where Dashy's dipped into the 70s. So 2021 Major 3, that of course being the Cold War season. 76 overall at Champs in Vanguard, right, which was not a great time for OpTic. But if you look at Dashy's overall seasons, it's pretty outrageous, actually. No, I mean, his overall is an 89.5. I think that HyDra's was a 90.9, so not that dissimilar. Season overalls a 91 in Cold War, 95, 91, 90, and then a 95 last year with incredibly consistent numbers. Not quite all in the 90s, but not far off. 95 Major 1, 89 in Major 2, 89 at Champs. Everything else is in the 90s. He also had a 99 overall Major 3, the entirety of Major 3 back in 2024 in Modern Warfare 3. There was no Major 4, as we know, in a couple of these years. No EWC in the first 3 years. So that's why the graphic is a little bit messier than it would be nice if it was. But still, anyway, those are Dashy's numbers. Where does he sit now? It's a fascinating question because if you cut this off before 2024 and 2025, man, the conversation around Dashy was so different, right? There was still talk about his attitude, turning up to scrims, you know, not putting in 100%, turning up a little bit late, this type of stuff. And of course, at the time, while he had 2 event wins to his name, the first event in Vanguard and the first event of Black Ops 4 back in 2018 where he was MVP, his career was nowhere near as successful as it should have been, right? Based on the talent, based on the numbers, it was nowhere near. It's remarkable that Dashy's career has flourished so promisingly so late, as it were. Not like he's old, although he is like the second oldest player in the league, but things all seemed to change when Scump retired, right? And when Scump made it clear that, look, Dashy, I'm kind of stepping away here to give you this opportunity to prove yourself. And since then, Dashy definitely stepped it up, not just in his own, like, let's say, out of the server situation, but also in terms of his playstyle in the game. Stepping into a more objective role, really, over the last couple of years, right? Like, Dashy's KD, let's say, in Vanguard, was more like a 1.2. Nowadays, Dashy's KD is probably going to sit at something like a 1.1, maybe a 1.08, 1.15, you know, something in that kind of ballpark, but he will be in the hill more. He will be playing in a way more conducive to team success than maybe he was a few years ago. Shotzzy even said that back in Vanguard, he didn't like playing with Dashy because he felt he was just playing for kills all the time. That is certainly not the case anymore. So, yeah, where does Dashy sit, right? People are going to talk about it now, certainly after the back-to-back champs rings. Where does he sit in terms of best ARs of all time? The best ARs ever are Clay and Formal. I don't think there's going to be too much denial of those two. Then you're talking about Slasher, you're talking about Octane. There's obviously some other names as well. Where does Dashy sit in that conversation? Good question. Also a bit of talk about snaking, right? Because in the Pro League, this was a big drama with regard to Celium not long ago when he snaked heavily against Boston. The OpTic guys say that when they come back to scrimming in January, there will be no Falcon scrims for a week as a result of that. But in challenges, it's not quite so simple because, well, the GAs are not really enforced in the same way as they are in the Pro League. Because challenges is such a mess. Okay, it's not a mess, right? Like, I want to give it respect, but the teams change all the time. The rosters change all the time. There's no, you know, challenges rep chat, as it were, in the Pro League. Because in the Pro League, the rosters are relatively stable, relatively consistent. You know who each other plays for. Whereas in challenges, things change rather quickly. Every single tournament, there'll be some sort of roster change. So if I get snaked in a tournament and then I want to blacklist that team, but that team's just blown up. So, like, what do? They've got a new rep, things are changing, right? So, look, maybe you can enforce against individual players, but then if he snakes me and he joins a new team, am I punishing that new team he's just joined because he snaked? Maybe, but no one has answers to these questions. So the problem is that in challenges, snaking is a bit more rampant than it is in the Pro League right now. We've had it in the Pro League a couple of years back when snaking was everywhere. Some of the players were like, well, you know what, it's fair game. Everyone can do it. You can do it too, right? That was the logic. But I think from the fans' perspective, from a viewer perspective, the game is so much better to watch with no snaking, with the pros actually successfully GAing it. And they have done this quite well now for the last couple of years, thanks in large part to the Commissioner Zuma. But in challenges, it is still an issue, right? And then these guys who are snaking their head off in challenges, they get promoted to the Pro League, and all of a sudden, they maybe start doing it too. So there is some talk because, as CDC Intel says here, like, there are a lot of tournaments coming up in challenges, a lot of important things. There's also going to be a Pro-Am, right, where the challengers are going to play the pros at Major 3 in Atlanta. So there are certainly some opportunities here for some more drama, let's just put it that way. But some other interesting clips as well. Simp was talking about which COD Pro he would like to play with, who's now retired. Of course, like, seeing Simp with Scump at some point would have been pretty crazy. But yeah, he even mentioned Zuma, reckons he would have been a pretty good duo with him at some point, which is pretty nice to say. And then, of course, the OpTic Dynasty, who I'm sure will be top of many people's lists regardless. But let's talk about what Sib's had to say, because this guy's pretty entertaining, right? I love seeing Sib stream because he's a great character, and it's nice when people that are great characters in the scene stream a little bit more than they maybe have done in the past. So Sib's been turning and streaming over the last few days. Pretty entertaining clips we talked about yesterday as well. He's been trying to coach the Stallions and coming up with some interesting answers. But he's also been talking quite a lot about OpTic. So we looked back at the grand finals. You guys remember in 2023, that was when New York Subliners won the World Championship with Priester on the team. They beat OpTic on their way there. Huke made that mistake on the Zarqwa Hydroelectric. Kismet ran through the gap. They won the map. They won the series. They eventually won the tournament. But then dramatically in that following off season, New York had that drama with Priester. They were like, oh, Priester wanted this salary, but we could only afford this, and whatever. They wanted to drop him, basically. They brought in Sib. They were still pretty good with Sib. They won that Major 4 with no crowd that season. Then they turned up to the grand finals again at the World Championship. They played OpTic with Pred and with Kenny and with Dashy and with Shotzzy. They lost in, was it like 5-1 or something? But of course that was OpTic's home event, as it were, right? That was in Dallas. It was just north of Dallas up in Allen, right? But that was where the World Championship was that year. The drums were out and all of this. And Sib says, look, that crowd was definitely a buff as far as he's concerned. If that crowd was behind him, there's no way he would be losing, at least to Sib's perspective. So look, Sib says, all right, lads, turn up to Paris this year. We're going to have the crowd. It's going to be a different story.
Retired pros to play with. I don't know. I mean, I'd probably be someone from the OpTic Dynasty or Zuma. Like, that'd probably be my go-tos. Maybe Nicky D. Nicky D's my boy now. So maybe playing with him would have been fun. But I mean, bro, like, playing with, like, Formal, Krim, Scump, Damon, like, all those guys would have been lit to play with. I mean, bro, if me and Tommy were on a team, like, he'd be pinching everything. He'd be getting 1, I'd be getting 2. I mean, I'd have to get tilt on him, unfortunately, but he'd be pinching. He'd be pinching. Clay's a good shot, too. I mean, I teamed with Clay in my first year. I had Clay for 1 year, bro. We won champs. Like, it's a winner right there.
I think, what's it called? You guys need to be faster when you guys get a 4 dead, though. You guys don't really take that much space. You guys can't, because you guys are... Honestly, you guys are thinking so slow. Yeah, that's... Once you guys get a 4 dead, you can register it really late, and you don't have really time to, like, take space. And if you do, it's, like, barely anything. I mean, all the 4 deads on the map, pretty much. Yes, sir. Yeah. All the 4 deads. And then also... that P2... If you're in the bag blocking, and if you're push out front, they're just gonna spawn like dragon and server over and over. Yeah, dragon. The only way they spawn white, I think as you call it, or like the back, they spawn white if you're like not outside, like if you're inside garage basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah, or
like push out roof garage, like small. You're saying?
No, garage is backdoor P2.
Oh, if you're not blocking the back. Okay, yeah.
Oh, question, Dante. Am I blocking if I'm top blue? Like, does that block the dragon spawn P1?
No.
Like, bro, that looks insane. That crowd looks insane. Holy f***. Bro, and it's just green lights everywhere, bro. Like, bro. I swear, bro, if I had the whole arena shaking after I got a kill in the back, bro, I'd fucking never die. I hope I play OpTic in Paris. They're gonna feel my pain. I promise you. Give me that shit.
I think it's gonna be better, bro.
Fuck yeah, I fucking hope so.
OpTic will always pretty much have the crowd wherever they go, right? It was even the case back in, Europe back in the day, at CDL Birmingham and stuff. It was definitely, we've had some events where it's been more 50-50, but OpTic are very rarely in the minority of fans in a venue, regardless of where it is. So, and especially an OpTic home venue with the biggest crowd we've ever seen in COD, yes, there was a lot of energy in that building that day, right? So, it was fantastic to witness, and Sib, of course, was playing on the other side of that, and of course that's challenging to a certain degree, but when Paris comes up with the Gentlemates, maybe it's going to be a different story this season, because, well, finally I think we have an organisation that has a passionate fan base behind them that could potentially rival OpTic on their day, and I think in Paris, I'm very excited for that event later in the season. Hopefully, as Sib says, we do get a Gentlemates versus OpTic matchup at that event. It would be absolutely spectacular, I am sure, especially if it was the grand finals. I can't even imagine. And yeah, I think there's some promising things being said about that Paris event, the venue they're going for and all that type of stuff. But Sib also, let's not forget, has said before that being a part of OpTic would be the dream, right? He actually said this September last year. I found out this clip where he says that, yeah, basically OpTic would be his dream team at some point, which it would be for pretty much every single player. And Sib has not made a secret of this fact that, you know, we know he gets on pretty well with Dashy. They have some good back and forths. We also know that he's been gassing up Shotzzy heavily in recent days and weeks as well. Like, I don't know if Sib is trying to play a little game here, but we know that Dashy has talked about as well the fact that Modern Warfare 4, next year's game, probably not going to be that great. The players are going to enjoy Black Ops 7 while it lasts. There's been a little bit of talk as to, and I doubt this would be the case, but if I was Dashy and I'm looking at potentially going back to back to back in terms of world championships, OpTic are the favourites to do so right now. Their chances of doing so are certainly far less than 50%. I think this year is going to be very competitive, but OpTic are considered to be the #1 team in the game right now, and for good reason. If in this crazy dynamic where somehow Dashy goes back to back to back at champs, you can see a world where he might say, you know what, I'm never going to do anything like that again. You know, let me just call it a day and not play Modern Warfare 4, and maybe I'll come back, but I'll stream for a year or something. It's not impossible. I don't want to see it happen. I don't think it will happen. But because, look, Dashy's not going anywhere anytime soon unless he wants to. Mercules is certainly not going anywhere anytime soon from OpTic. So from an AR perspective, Dashy would be the one to potentially step away. Sib is like 3 years or so younger than Dashy. So maybe there's something in that. And I don't know if Sib is trying to make this happen to some degree, but he's definitely been gassing up Shotzzy a lot lately. And OpTic are even doing this on the podcast. And they say top 5 most famous people. Sib says at Shotzzy, at Shotzzy, at Shotzzy in the replies. So, you know, I think this guy, you know, I think he knows what he's doing a little bit. Now, not to say, for you Gentlemates fans out there, not to say that Sib hates the Gentlemates or anything. I think he's really appreciating playing for those guys right now, playing for Paris. And I think he's going to have a great time with that organisation and probably should be there for some time to come. But in the world where Hex gives Sib the phone call, I don't think he's going to say no. So very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Top rope, dead.
Kill. Yeah, we gotta start calling vines front dill, by the way.
Front dill?
Why would I do that? Yeah. You
What?
on my screen? Look, dill. Sam's not playing. Sam's not playing. You know?
Wait, has Sam never seen that clip? You Sam never saw that?